Beginning to wonder what was more exceptional when Stephen Ross sat down with Joe Philbin across the table and said, "Oh, that's my man," after listening to the show. Or was he more excited when he heard Mike McDaniel say things like that? Mike, how would you face your team after a small, short, hopefully losing streak? And he says something like that, and Stephen Ross says, "This is the guy. Get the contract." Hey, Garfunkel, get in here with the contracts.
Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
How cool is it that a guy named Garfunkel is actually the president of business operations? I guess it's Garfinkel. We keep butchering that. Wouldn't it be better? I mean, if you were named Garfinkel, Lubie, wouldn't you just change your name to Garfunkel?
Yeah, why not?
Some immediate equation to greatness, the great Art Garfunkel. But he may be the most efficient guy in the Dolphin organization, Garfinkel. What's his first name? Is it Tom?
Tom Garfinkel. Tom Garfinkel.
And think about it. I mean, they make money. Making money hand over fist. They expanded all of their horizons. They made great use of the stadium grounds. Managed to, I think, do that at great expense to whatever municipalities they are fleecing in the process and taking money from. I don't know that they're getting public funding, but they're finding ways to work their way around all of that, navigate their like tax breaks and all of this baloney. So, yeah, I mean, he might be the most efficient guy in the Dolphin organization. Other than that, it's pretty weak. We'll get into it with Chris Perkins. Get a perspective on that. And the National Football League, which had its final game of Week 9. You believe this, Lubie? Week 9. We say this every year, right? Season flies by. You wait all year in anticipation of the National Football League coming around. Countdown is on. People will be posting stuff on social media. Well, only 13 days until we go 320 days without, a single day missing football. I'm thinking, I don't know. I can wait for it. And when it comes around, it comes around. But it sure does zippity-doo go by, Lubie.
Yes.
What extends the season to the point where you're thinking, okay, it's good that it ended? The playoffs and the 2 weeks before the Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl gap is like, all right, I'm ready for this to
let's end it.
Wrap up, guys.
When the pitchers and catchers report. Maybe the infusion of enthusiasm for Major League Baseball following the most watched World Series in decades.
Did you see that?
What was the story on that? I glanced at the headline. I guess I have it here somewhere, but
the guy almost doubled the ratings of like the NBA Finals, I guess, Game 7. Now, the reality is it was the Thunder versus the Pacers. Was the finals. People forget. And then Thunder are a dominant team, but they're not. It's not like you had LeBron. You don't have a tentpole guy, and you had a Pacer team that no one knew. Unless you were an NBA head, you had no idea. And then even by then, Halliburton was hurt. So, I mean, you had the most prominent or second most prominent franchise in all of baseball, with one of the most prominent figures in all of sports.
Two small market teams in basketball.
It does level it off a little, but yes, baseball people are crowing. See, baseball still matters. Okay. Sure.
Well, it matters enough to be able to pay guys $700 million on contracts and more than one. And anybody who's a free agent now has to be. Guys are opting out of like $40 million a year contracts.
Yep.
I think Bregman with the Red Sox, who of course, we're a big fan of because he's huge into horse racing and seems like a really decent guy, and he's Jewish. But never mind. I mean, we've forgiven him. Was he involved in any of that stuff? Was sign stealing? Oh, it was Carlos Beltran beating a drum right in the ear of Alex Bregman, saying, "Curveball coming, Alex," when he was with the Astros. That's largely been forgotten, has it not?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, people talk about the Astros like this great franchise, and they've won a lot, but it's like, it's hard for me to forget that was there.
I like the fact that they were actually like wearing a wire while they were doing this. As you had guys that didn't want to unbutton their shirt. The guy starts to rip his shirt off, and next thing you know, no. I've experienced that. It's not a pleasant thing, right? Where the guy, I think I'll just keep my shirt on. Oh, okay, great. Now, we're going scuba diving here.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Should be all the indicators with her. Anyway, nothing more delightful than watching an NFL game where Jerry Jones is in agony the entire time, bewildered, wondering what the hell is going on out there. as the Cowboys fall to 3-5-1, 3-5-1 in a year where Dak Prescott was being talked about on the outside parameters of MVP consideration for the way that the Dallas Cowboys offense was performing. I ended up getting stuck with the Cardinals getting 3 points on the road with Jacoby Brissett starting his third game in place of Kyler Murray.
Good for you.
Well, you know what? I figured that was a loss. I just chalked it up. I'm thinking the Cowboys are scoring 40 points a game at home. The Arizona Cardinals have not only gone to their backup quarterback, Jacoby Brissett, who's a serviceable journeyman, would you say? Is he in the same category as Tyrod Taylor and some of these other guys?
He may be better than a Taylor because he at least will win some games. Like Taylor, you never really see him win games. Like Brissett doesn't do a lot, but his team will win. Whereas I don't know. I mean, Mariota, they're on a very similar boat. I may take Brissett over them because we've seen him win some games more than we've seen those other guys.
When he first surfaced, he was, the third string quarterback for the Patriots, and they had a couple of injuries. Brady was out, I believe, and somebody else.
The Castle year.
And Belichick managed to win games with him. And you thought, wow, this guy's not terrible. Yes. He's had some moments.
Jimmy G, that's what it was. Jimmy G. Brady got hurt. Jimmy G got hurt, and then Brissett had to go in, and they went like 2-2 or something in Brissett's era, and that made him a hot commodity.
That was great. By the way, I'm watching a little bit of the Manning cast version of the Brawl game last night. Does anybody tune in to see Joe Buck and Troy Aikman at all anymore? I would think that the ratings are 0.0 there on ABC and also ESPN. They're being carried on two major channels, a network, an over-the-air network, cable channel that is probably the most significant. And I'm thinking people still, they don't even want to hear the traditional broadcast, do they? Do you need to hear this endless babble from a color analyst? These guys that are making $10 million a year. Oh, my God, Lubie. Well, did we follow the wrong path?
Yeah. Oh, good.
Failed coaches and color analysts on NFL team.
No one wants to hear me.
Probably paying Mark Schlereth a couple of $100 million a year. So, anyway, I don't know. Does anybody tune in for that? The Manning cast, I happen to watch it because I saw they teased that Charles Barkley was coming up. Barkley lost like 50 pounds.
He's lost a ton of weight. He's lost a lot of weight. Yep.
He was on Monjaro, and then he got on, what is that called? Roe? I thought Roe was a erectile dysfunction type of drug.
I don't know about any of it. I only know about some of that stuff because Shirley was dabbling in it well before she got pregnant.
Yes.
I don't know. I know Ozempic and Monjaro. I don't know about all these other things.
A ton of them. It's incredible, and I don't know what's going to surface on this because you're always wondering. It can't be beneficial to do something that's seemingly completely unnatural. It's not like these drugs are laced with natural ingredients. So I don't know. As appetite suppressants, obviously very effective because people that have had struggles losing weight have managed to drop 30, 40, 50 pounds. But Barkley, he looked absolutely emaciated. How long ago did this take place, Lubie? Because I thought I saw him the other day. I didn't notice any difference. And now all of a sudden, this guy, one of those sort of turkey necks. That
he has a neck thing. I think since the end of the last NBA season to now, he's taken it really seriously. He's lost a ton of weight.
Well, good for him. He was very entertaining, very complimentary with the Mannings last night. And I found that was preferable to listening to Joe Buck and Troy Aikman pontificate about how it is that the Cowboys are going to get back into this game. Because that's all that the NFL networks want. You think they want to see Arizona dominate the Dallas Cowboys?
Not really.
No. They want Jerry to rise again, but not happening. At what point does Jerry look, he's in his 80s. How old is Jerry Jones? 80-something?
Early 80s. And did we look? It was like 83, I think.
He's not as senile as a Trumpster at this stage. He's still at least a little bit coherent. But, my God, at what point does he just look at his son, Stephen Jones, and say, listen, Steve, you're a waste of time. I'm dropping out of the how long do you go on? Is their organization any better than the Miami Dolphins organization at this point?
I guess they've won a playoff game in the last 20-something years, so I guess.
Got to give them that.
But they haven't won big in 30. And the Dolphins haven't won big in 50 years, and they haven't won big in 30 years. So I guess that's a feather in their cap. But no, they've gone harder and been more relevant than the Dolphins and haven't done much more. It's very true.
Enigmatic that their defense is the problem this year. And guess what they did before the season? They traded away one of their best defensive players, one of the best defensive players in the league. How is Micah Parsons doing? Is he having a huge impact with Green Bay? Green Bay's been kind of up and down. Naturally, they focus in on Micah Parsons the entire time, the entire ballgame, even if he's on the bench. But is he having the kind of impact that you would anticipate when you get a player of that caliber? Is it making that much of a difference? And speaking of defense, here's one that we missed, Mike Lubie Lubitz. Although, did it happen while we were on the show? Jalen Phillips being traded by the Miami
No,
Dolphins?
that's what I was going to say. Is I think it happened like right around when we were doing the show, and it became news sort of right during, but mostly after. So we didn't really miss it per se.
Okay, because I didn't hear anything about it and was completely unaware of it. Saw no headlines relating to this. And then right after we got done yesterday, which was on with another program till about 10 o'clock, I check some stuff out, and I see Jalen Phillips traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. I thought, when the hell did that happen? At first, I thought it was false information. That was just another one of those AI things that somebody had generated in the name of Adam Schefter. But turns out to be true. So Jalen Phillips is traded. What kind of indicator is that? We can get into this with Chris. But are they going to be dumping more players before the trade deadline, which is what? Today, right? Lubie?
Yes, today.
Trade deadline is today?
Yes, today.
In the National Football League. So what do you think is going to happen? Are we going to get rid of a couple of guys? They're looking for a first round pick.
I think they'd love to get rid of Chubb. I think they'd like to keep Waddle, but if they can get a first rounder for Waddle, it's hard to. Oh wow, he barely won. They would be open to getting rid of Waddle because again, he's not a number one, and the kind of money he's making is sort of number one money. So I don't like the word fire sale. I don't think it's a fire sale. I think these are guys that have really big contracts that are stupid ass contracts. Or in Jalen Phillips' case, a guy that's about to be done with his contract that's going to have to get paid a lot of money for the kind of player he is. And he's never finished the season. This is the most healthy he's been. And people like me are just looking at the clock, waiting to see when he gets hurt. 1, 2, it's the least productive season he's had. He's finally stayed healthy, and you never hear his name. So, like,
doesn't seem like he's done much.
Case, he's either hurt or doesn't do anything. So, to keep him and then pay him is just moronic. So, the word fire sale is weird to me because these are people that Dolphin fans that are knowledgeable can't wait to get rid of. Chubb never does anything and is always hurt and costs them a lot of money and a lot of picks. Jalen Phillips, always hurt, doesn't do anything, and about to be up for a deal. So both of those guys are guys I would love to get picks for, get a real GM who can use those picks. And Waddle, I don't know what you do with. It'd be cool to build around Etienne and Waddle and I guess Chop Robinson. But Waddle already has a big contract, and he's a nice number 2 receiver. He's not a number 1. So to pay a guy like that to be a number 2, who's undersized, you're not going to throw it into double coverage, and he's going to go make a big play for you. Like Waddle, to me, it's what you can get. If you can get a number 1 pick for Waddle, you trade him because I'm ready for them to start over. They have a lot of big contracts of guys that don't get the job done when they need to.
They need to go in another direction. It's like the old radio thing. We're going in another direction. I'm thinking, why can't you take me with you?
Why can't we go that direction? I love all directions.
What do you want? Topical conversation? We're perfectly capable of doing that. All right, a bunch of stuff happening in the world of sports. We'll get more into that whole Dolphin situation and the trade deadline and what's going on around the NFL. But and Stephen A. Smith. I mean, Stephen A. Smith to ESPN, what Donald Trump is to the presidency. Stephen A. Smith, he doesn't seem to be evil, Stephen A. Smith. At least, I don't know. Maybe he's got some elements to him and components that make him unlikable. I didn't see that when we dealt with Stephen A. Smith on Radio Row, various Radio Rows. In fact, before we hit it as the number 1 guy there on ESPN, he was actually, I don't want to say he was somewhat humble, Lubie. Do you recall any of your encounters with Stephen A. Smith? I think we might have had him on a show. I don't know if that happened while I was working with you. I had him on a couple of times.
I met him at the finals, and he was already a big deal. He'd already lost and then came back and was a big deal, and Skip was already gone. He was already the main guy when I had met him. He was actually humble. He was sat at a table. I was eating food, and he sat down, and there was a few other journalists, and we just talked at basketball for like an hour.
Yeah.
And he had the same voice, and he was just as passionate as he was on TV, so at least that's not a character. But at least it was stuff he knew, and it was actually a very engaging conversation. I enjoyed talking to him, being around him, but he is a very obnoxious jerk off. So
Oh, as a
that's also
performer.
another thing.
Well, he knows it's shtick, and it doesn't really matter. It's like one of those things where you say, "Oh, geez, how could this guy do the same?" And you wind him up, and he's ready to go. But nobody talks more about the Cowboys, and it seems I thought he was like a Giants fan, but it seems like all he does is talk about the Dallas Cowboys. And there he was in Jerry's box. It was the Susan Wallman thing. Can you believe it? Rogers in George's box. So that was kind of odd, and it was an occasion, I guess, to switch to Jerry's box like a zillion more times than they usually do, which is already obsessive and excessive, and nothing more pleasurable, is there, Lubie, than watching Jerry Jones just agonize over the fact that his team stinks? It's fantastic
It's so great seeing him frustrated.
because he at least knows what's going on. When they go to the shot of Stephen Ross, you can see the other guys just feeding him BS. No, we're really playing well, Steve.
He has no idea. He has no clue, and they're just like, smiling.
We're making money, boss. We're making money. Don't worry about a thing.
I used to love when Tannenbaum was there, and he would just be looking like a goofball. And Ross, you give him like a thumbs up.
Yeah, that's good. We fumbled, huh?
Like,
Did you
dude.
see that? They all fell on the ball. The other team. Great.
Oh my god!
All right, basketball started last night. College basketball, anyway. The Heat were involved. Did the Heat win that game against the Clippers?
They ended up winning. It shows you. I mean, it must have been super late. I think the game started like 10:30, so there's
Game
no way
started
either.
like 10:30 or something like that.
But the Heat won by 1 over the Clippers, who played pretty decent basketball. And you have Kawhi, I think. But yeah, you have Kawhi playing well, Harden playing well. Yeah, the Heat are weird because Bam has been a little bit more active. You got Powell back, and Ware actually contributed, and he hasn't been good. But then Hawkins fell off a cliff after he had 30 the night before. And Jovic has not taken this magical step that he's supposed to take, even though they signed him to the deal that I still don't understand why they signed him to the deal. But the Heat have been interesting. I mean, they were 500 in a very weird Eastern Conference. Heat are right in the thick of it. And the Clippers are a decent team. So nice to see. And the Clippers got a good game from the guys that they needed to get a good game, and they still won on the road. So good for them. I don't know. The Heat are doing the kind of things that could make them very interesting later in the year. Again, they don't have Hero, who's clearly their best scorer. So
Ware was hitting 3-pointers, tuned into a little bit of the ball game. They were trailing most of the time that I was watching, and then I thought I caught this morning that they had won 120 to 119, like you said,
yes,
which turned out to be true. You never know what's true anymore. Well, when you're following the crawl, it could be yesterday's news, but good to bounce back after that Laker game and come back and win against the Clippers. As you said, Lubie, it's a work in progress. We don't know exactly what they're going to be, but the Eastern Conference compromised badly by injuries to key players, star players. Tatum, of course, with the Boston Celtics, Halliburton, and others with the Indiana Pacers. How are the Cavs doing? I haven't really checked the standings. The Cavs off to a decent start?
I think they've sort of struggled.
Yeah. All right. So wide open, like you said, Lubie, wide open.
The Knicks have this record. The Heat are in the fifth. The Heat are in the fifth, and again, they're a game behind the Pistons and the Bucks, and the Bulls and the Sixers have come out of nowhere. So we'll see what happens. I mean, again, there's only 6-7 games into the season. So, but whatever. Again, for the Heat, with the Eastern Conference in flux, with the coach they have, with the vets they have, you can just hang around. And again, at the trading deadline, you never know who's going to be like, screw it, and want to offer up a player, because the Heat have a lot of interesting younger assets, and they have some picks because they haven't been trading picks. Who knows? They're not a contender, but they can be in that top 6 in the East. And if you are, there's no one scary. I mean, the Knicks are going to nick. Like Mike Brown isn't so like I would take
Howard Red Auerbach
over Brown in a playoff series.
What a sort of nondescript hire that was after all.
He's better offensively and he goes deeper into the bench. So that was the point. But I'm like, yeah, but he loses. Like, he doesn't make teams better. Like, the idea was he's the offensive version of Tibbs, where like he'll make you good, he'll make you respectable, but he's not going to take you to that next level, which isn't that what the Knicks were trying to do? That's what I thought the Knicks were trying to do.
Couldn't have been a more golden opportunity. I thought Detroit was a little bit of a sleeper team this year. Nobody was really talking about them, but they came on strongly last year. Probably should have won that opening playoff round, and thought they would get better. We'll have to get into that a little bit. But wow, I mean, wide open in the East, and at least the Heat never fail you and don't completely bottom out. Rarely have they in their 30-plus year history just completely hit rock bottom. And one of the years that they did, they managed to be in a position to draft Dwayne Wade. So
What I appreciate is last year, again, it wasn't one of the strongest years. Like Jimmy Butler just made everything a disaster, and they were offensively inept. They've gone out of their way this year to just be totally offensively. They're one of the better offensive teams in the NBA. So the Fontenecchio kid spreads the floor in a way that they wanted Robinson, but he wasn't doing it. Ware's a guy that is helping spread the floor. Jaquez is finally contributing like he didn't last year. Like you're getting an offense that you did not. They're just running. We don't call plays anymore. We just run. Okay, that's fine with me if you're scoring 115 to 120 every night. Like they're at least fun. It's what you've always said about sports. Like if you're not going to be great, at least be fun.
I'm with you, Libby. That makes perfect sense. All right, a couple of obituaries here. Chris Perkins is going to join us in a few minutes. Didn't want to get into this college basketball because we're talking about how great it is that you don't necessarily have to open up with a bunch of cupcake games. And then did you check the scoreboard last night? Now, Florida went down. It's a number 3 ranked team to Arizona.
Of course.
So that was one of those games that we were saying and giving applause and plaudits to college basketball because heavyweight teams go right out of the chute there. Here they are meeting in game number 1.
Yes.
Arizona was ranked 13th in the country. Florida number 3. Arizona prevails 93-87. But on the other side of the ledger, you had this. St. John's by 34 over Quinnipiac.
Nice.
North Carolina by 40 over Clark. Something.
There you go.
Is it Clark Kent?
Clark. I think Clark is Clark University.
I don't know. I wrote this down. I can't read it. Wisconsin by 32 over Campbell. It's not Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell didn't play him one-on-one. Illinois by 58 over Jackson State. Michigan by 43, only Dusty May, over Oakland, who has at least given a decent account of itself on the sort of second or third tier of college basketball. Louisville by 59 over South Carolina State.
Oh, Jesus.
Gonzaga 55 over Texas Southern. So if you were laying big fat spreads last night, you probably made a profit. A couple of games were a little closer than that appeared to be mismatches, but you have to love the way they started out, right? For that one game that you got that was competitive among top teams, all of the rest of these teams took on teams that were an outright joke. Did Miami win its game last night? Miami was playing. I actually was in the car, caught a little Miami basketball on the radio with Joe Zagacki making the call.
Yes, they beat Jacksonville by 17.
All right.
They actually didn't cover.
Wow. A win, no cover is that. See, that should count as a loss if you're taking on a team.
Exactly, you're playing one of the crappy teams, and you can't cover 20.
And they should factor the spread into the standings. Shouldn't be able to get a cheap win like
you shouldn't get credit for
that. Dolphins 9.5-point dogs to the Buffalo Bills at home coming up this Sunday.
Right.
9.5. Is that enough points for you, Mike Lubitz?
Yeah, I mean, I would take Bills regardless. Look, they played them competitively in Buffalo, so you would think now, I don't know, the GM's fire maybe I don't know. I think the Bills woke up a little bit versus the Chiefs, and I presume that'll continue versus the Dolphins.
You would have to think that the Dolphins are going to be a definitive 2-8 team after this coming Sunday once they get around to National Football League. Obituaries: Dick Cheney, former Vice President Dick Cheney, shot a guy. They didn't make that much of a big deal about it. You don't. The jokes, of course, were you don't want to go hunting with this clown.
Yep.
What was a symbol of evil until very late in life, obviously, as it was just last year. He said he couldn't vote for this scumbag Donald Trump, that he was going to go ahead and vote for Kamala Harris, which what was sort of a surprising turnaround from a guy that really epitomized the evil of the right conservative movement. I don't know that he was as evil as some of the things that we're seeing going on right now, but he always he seemed to be on the wrong side of everything.
Oh, no, he was insane. He was a piece of work, but Halliburton, the whole thing. I mean, the whole war was pretty much started because he wanted to get oil.
Yes.
So, I mean, he wasn't good, but he at least cared about the Constitution and the rule of law. I've missed those days, actually.
Yes. And Victor Conti.
Yes, that was crazy. You said, like, oh my God, is that real?
Yeah, Victor Conti, 75 years old. I don't know if he was taking any of this juice. It's interesting what happened with this guy. Of course, he was the founder of the Balco Labs and at the very epicenter of all of the steroid controversy that took place, or most of it, in Major League Baseball. Later, subsequent to Conti and Balco, there were other locations, including that duplex in Hialeah,
Yep.
where A-Rod was lined
A-Rod,
up with a bunch of other guys that were lined up just to get juice, right? All of a sudden, you have all of these millionaires lining up in some strip mall in Hialeah at a place that looked pretty nondescript, and they weren't there to buy Cuban coffee, but they were getting their jolt. But he later became highly respected in the sport of boxing, Lubie. And I don't know what kind of juice he was administering to some of these fighters. He originally was associated with a guy named Nonito Donaire, who would be the other Filipino. An excellent guy who continued his career until he was almost, I think he was in his 40s when he finally retired. Fought at the top levels of the game in his weight divisions, was a world champion. And he sort of resurfaced. His career took a turn for the better when he was affiliated with Conti, who supposedly was helping these fighters with all natural remedies and methods to sustain fitness and durability. Are you buying that for any?
No. I mean, that was funny when you would see Conti like in the stands or in the
Conti
corner.
was in the corner,
It
literally.
was like, okay.
He used to joke about it, right? This guy needs Victor Conti in his corner, and then sure enough, there he was. He was in the corner.
Pretty much.
Worked with a few different fighters, but Donaire was really the first guy that I saw him surface with as an entity in boxing. And of course, Donaire had remarkable stamina, resiliency, and all of the things that you would associate with either training in the mountains in Mexico or somebody that was making regular visits to the Balco Labs. But he checked out a very controversial figure. All right, we're going to do this because we have Chris Perkins standing by here, and we're going to get into some stuff in the NFL. And, of course, latest developments with the Miami Dolphins. Chris, the esteemed columnist for the Sun Sentinel, on the Miami Dolphins beat. And we'll come back with Chris in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:34.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Joe Bees. The bees collect the pollen, bring it to Joe, he packages it, and he gets it to you. It's simple, 100% natural, and it's good for you.
There's only one place to get Joe Bees, and that's from me. Joe B.
If you want to look and feel good, call 877-300-5632.
To win games, you have to win the game, not lose the game, honestly. And that is how you lose the game. You're moving the ball down the field. You're 1st and 10, and then you find yourself at 2nd and 20. That was critical.
Buenos dias. The cafecito is piping hot. Why not enjoy it with Defo and Lubie? It's now time for the Defo Show.
That is some deep stuff right there. Mike McDaniel. We welcome to the show the great Chris Perkins. Always a pleasure having Chris on the program. And looking good, my friend. How are you? Oh, we don't have any sound on Chris.
I did not hear Perk.
There you go.
Sure, it's not muted.
Yeah,
There you go.
I'm doing better than Chris Grier. I mean, he's got more money than I do, but I've got a job.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, with these buyouts, I'm imagining Chris Grier probably had a pretty hefty
I'll
paycheck.
be doing fine.
Yeah, I think he's doing all right.
Yeah. I mean, several $1 million. We keep saying it, and I think it's true. And little Luka Lubitz, who's listening to the program right now in the background, become a failed college football coach. How many years old? Short of that, maybe a failed NFL executive. Because no, how would you? Is there a way to characterize the Chris Grier? I mean, I'm sure you've written about this in the aftermath of his mutual parting of the ways, but how would you characterize this entire tenure that he had with the Miami Dolphins? And I guess I always go by this: how many people are going to be lined up waiting to get this guy another job?
Yeah, I would say the first part of the Chris Grier. So Chris Grier took over as GM, took over the draft in 2016. He got the entire operation in 2019. So I would say the first few years were mediocrity, and the McDaniel era was total failure. And I say it was failure because of the expectations and the expense and the resources. Look, when you spend, $212 million on Tua, and you bring in Tyreek and Teron and Calais Campbell and Jalen Ramsey and Vic Fangio, you should win. You should win a playoff game. You should be at the Buffalo-Baltimore level. Now, look, again, as I always say, Buffalo and Baltimore are two teams that can't get to the Super Bowl because of Patrick Mahomes. So, they should be at the Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen level of, good enough to win a couple of playoff games, but probably not good enough to beat Kansas City. That's where they should be, and they failed miserably. They aren't even close to either Buffalo or Baltimore.
What chance does the interim GM Champ Kelly have of retaining the job, and will we get some kind of indication as to what, if any, level of authority he has today with the trade deadline?
I think he's probably got a decent chance. It's all going to depend on what Steve Ross wants to do moving forward. And so, if you want to do the build through the draft thing and go slowly, well, you're probably looking at 3 years before you win a playoff game. And do you have that kind of patience, or do you do like you did last time, and in the middle of this thing, you just switch gears and say, let's try to win now? So, I don't know that much about Champ Kelly. I know that, he's a career NFL guy. He was the interim GM in Las Vegas in 2023. So he's been in this situation, but as far as building a team, I don't know if Champ Kelly is what you want. I don't know if he's what you don't want. I have no idea what Champ Kelly stands for. We haven't been able to talk to him yet. So I don't know if he's a guy that builds from the trenches or wants to draft a quarterback immediately. I have no idea. By the way, forcing a quarterback next season would be a huge mistake, right? Because we know that nobody is coming out. Nobody that's worth a top 5 pick is coming out. And so if the Dolphins pick at 5 or 6 and they make themselves draft a quarterback, that would be a bad strategy. And hopefully that's not what Champ Kelly is all about if he gets the full-time job.
So, yes, Friday was a glorious day for me. Even though I never really hope anyone to get fired, I think Chris Grier got like 4 or 5 years of pay he had not earned, so I don't feel so bad for him. The curiosity, and there's a few ways I want to go, but we'll start here, I guess, because of the move yesterday. People keep using, I guess, because we're in the land of the Marlins, people keep using this term fire sale, and I'm like, when you get rid of guys that were always hurt and are going to need a contract that's going to pay them way more money than they deserve, and you get a pick that when you have a real GM that they know how to use third-round picks, I don't understand the connection of that term to what happened yesterday, or getting rid of, like, Bradley Chubb. You gave up a lot of picks, you spent a lot of money, and he never plays. And whenever he plays, you never hear his name. So, like, getting rid of those two guys does not, to me, as a lifelong Marlins fan, Miggy Cabrera, Stanton, Yelich, does not fall in the same vein as fire sale. Like, when you hear some of the names that are being bandied about, when you hear some of the moves that have and may happen, like, what are you thinking? What are your thoughts on what the Dolphins have done and could be doing under Champ or whoever the hell is the GM?
I would say that, no, there's not going to be a fire sale because you don't have enough assets or resources to have a fire sale. I think if you talk fire sale, then talk to me when Devon Achane and Jalen Waddle have been traded. That's the fire sale. But if you get rid of Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, Matthew Judon, guys like that, Jalen Wright, I mean, Minka Fitzpatrick, with all due respect to them, who cares? Because you weren't a mover and a shaker, right? You weren't Tyreek, you weren't Jalen Ramsey, you weren't Teron Armstead, you weren't Achane or Waddle or Tua. So yeah, I agree with you, Lubie, that this is not a fire sale. And here's the other thing about a fire sale. Who's out there that the Dolphins want? Like, I mean, that other teams want from the Dolphins. Yeah. So, yeah, I can see Jalen Phillips. I can see Bradley Chubb. I can see Minka. And just considering that Waddle and Achane aren't going anywhere, there's really no other options on this team like that. Nobody's trading for Austin Jackson, the injured Austin Jackson, right? Nobody, Jordan Brooks is not going to be traded. Nobody's trading for the injured Kader Kohu. So I don't see the fire sale being applicable. I understand that people want to throw that term out there, but I don't see it being applicable at all.
You have to have something to burn, in other words.
Yes.
So we don't even have that in your estimation.
No.
The Jalen Phillips thing got by me yesterday, although I guess it happened or was announced or discovered while we were on the show. I was kind of surprised to see that, and at the same time, I'm not. Lubie says, no problem. It was a good move to dump the guy. He was either hurt or ineffective most of the time. We did see him have his moments where you thought, wow, this guy's going to be really good, and it seemed to always be disrupted or thwarted by a season-ending injury. This year, I don't hear him doing much. What was your impression of that, and why is it always Philadelphia that's loading up on the kind of players?
That's the only thing that's annoying. That is the Eagles, because he's not going to go have like 6 sacks.
Hey, Howie Roseman is a good GM. That's where we start, right? I mean, This is the defending Super Bowl champs. Jalen Phillips, I think the Dolphins did incredible to get a third-round pick for him. Incredible.
Wow.
If you look at, if they would have kept him, maybe you get a compensatory pick. But the highest you're going to do is third round, and that formula for compensatory picks is so complicated. Like it takes a mathematician to understand all the intricacies, and you got all the other factors. So they weren't going to do better than a third round pick for Jalen Phillips. So I tip my hat to Champ Kelly for getting a third round pick. Jalen Phillips, an all-time good guy, a UM kid who started out at UCLA. He was the #1 high school recruit in the nation, had some injuries at UCLA, retired, came back at UM, first round pick. But did he live up to first round pick billing? Probably not. No. 22 sacks, right? 26 sacks in 55 games. He was okay. He was okay, but not he goes down to me and the first round picks along with Tua and Austin Jackson and Jalen Waddle, that they're okay, but none of them are consistent Pro Bowl players. So I like Jalen Phillips as a person. He was decent as a player, but if you can get a third round pick for him, he's out the door. Without a doubt, he's out the door.
People are always asking, and this is a somewhat impossible question to answer, but you're close and hanging out in there and talking to these guys. What's the so-called mood of the team, if you can define it? People always speculate with McDaniel's status. He's lost the locker room or whatever. These guys just trample over him. They like having him as their head coach because he's easy to manipulate, and he seems to be very favorable to the players. Could you possibly, if you were asked to write an essay or a column on it, describe briefly, capsulize where this team is at from a mental standpoint at this stage? Or is it so fractured because of the lousy record and what's going on that you can't really define it, that it's just every man for himself?
No, this team is fine. And I've written that and I've said that the whole time, that this team has a good fighting spirit to it. They're not going to quit. They're not going to give up. They like Mike McDaniel. They respect Mike McDaniel. But I don't think they're listening to Mike McDaniel any longer. And that's the big key right there, because you keep seeing these same mistakes over and over again, right? The dumb penalties and the turnovers and all of these errors and all of this stuff that just comes from, Mike's a good guy, but he's a 500 coach. Mike is 30-30. in the regular season. And when you have this much talent, like Joe Philbin could have gone 30-30 with this talent, right? I mean,
He would have.
Adam could have
Absolutely.
gone 30-30 with this talent. So I think players look at that and it's like, yeah, he's not really making us that much better. He's a good guy and I like him and I respect him, but what he's telling us is not effective. It's not winning us games. And that's kind of where this team is at mentally. You see them in the locker room and they're playing Papa Shot, and it's not that they don't give a damn. Like almost every team has games in their locker room, whether it's Papa Shot or ping pong or cornhole. Like pretty much all 32 teams in the league have that. But the Dolphins' mentality has, while it's been good, they don't get down on themselves. The problem is they're not very talented. And I think they realize that. And it's like, no matter what we do, we don't have the talent. We don't have the coaching. We're never going to beat Buffalo. We're never going to beat Baltimore. We're never going to be as good as Kansas City. So I'll report to work. I'll do my job. I'll do it to the best of my ability. But the best of my ability is not going to be good enough. I think that's where this team is at mentally, that they're in a good place, but they've kind of accepted that they're a second tier team.
Yeah. Do they have air hockey in there?
They don't have air
What about
hockey
the bar
like
shuffleboard? I always
right.
like the bar shuffleboard, where you hold the disc down there to the end of the table. That's a good one. All right, Lubie, go ahead.
It was just that you both bring up Mike McDaniel.
Yes.
It's so funny that the people were trying to dissect many different angles of to why Grier first, not McDaniel. To me, it's see if you can go and find I mean, first you had Champ and maybe they want to test him out, but see what other organizations have out there. You can start whispering, you can start talking. It's a lot harder to deal with a head coach in season. And also, so many times the interim head coach will win you 3 or 4 games that it's like, I'd rather not win those 3 or 4 games right now, to be brutally honest. And Mike McDaniel's showing you he's not going to win 3 or 4 more games. But the word is that McDaniel may be safe. McDaniel may be coming back. To me, I don't see how in the hell McDaniel comes back next year. I think he's done. It's just let him ride this wave out. And then you bring in a GM, you bring in a head coach. What have you heard? What are your thoughts on McDaniel's future? Because to me, that's what the Dolphins always do wrong, is you either tie a head coach to a GM or tie a GM to a head coach. We know the real GMs want to be able to pick their head coach. The real head coaches want to be selected by the GM that they hope to work for. Like, is there a chance that McDaniel comes back? And how the hell does that work in the world of the NFL, where we see with the Dolphins that's never worked?
I think that McDaniel has a chance to come back because of Tua. And I'm not sure that if I'm a legit GM, if they tell me Tua is your quarterback the first year, this job is not that appealing then. And you're tied to Tua financially. So that's kind of the big thing there, is that, and Mike McDaniel banged the table to get Tua this contract extension. So really what Mike did, maybe knowingly, maybe unknowingly, is he ensured that he's probably going to be here as long as Tua is here, because Mike gets the best out of Tua, a limited quarterback with health questions and mobility questions. But Mike McDaniel seems to be able to communicate with him and tap into him. And so I think that that's Mike's best chance of staying. I'm of the opinion, and I wrote this a few weeks ago, I think he ought to take a broom to all 3 of them. Chris Grier, Mike McDaniel, and Tua. And you just take the financial pain for Tua, because all Tua is doing is holding you back. He's not your quarterback of the future. You're tied to him financially for 2026. After that, Tua's probably gone. So why not just take the financial pain next year, make all your changes, GM, head coach, and quarterback heading into the 26th season, as opposed to getting a GM who might not be crazy about working with Tua, or, interviewing the GMs and they're going, yeah, if I'm tied to Tua, I don't want that job. And now you've set yourself back again because you can't get a top flight GM. As Lubie said, you hire your GM, you let the GM pick the coach, you let the coach pick the quarterback. And that's how you progress. That's how you move forward, as opposed to a GM who's presiding over a coach that he might or might not want, with a quarterback that, the GM might or might not want. Get them all, pulling on the same rope, get the broom out, make the sweep.
Well, I go back to the days when we had Richmond Webb, Keith Sims, Tim Ruddy lining up.
Yeah.
That was your left side through the middle of the offensive line. You grab some Chuck Klingbeil type out of the Canadian Football League to plug a gap and hope that your right tackle holds up. Okay. How is it possible to have gone this long without assembling some kind of effective offensive line? How? And wouldn't that be the number one priority? I mean, can you possibly get some kind of a sit down with Champ Kelly or whoever ends up being the decision maker? Show them a picture of 5 big fat guys and say, listen, if you can find 4 of these guys, maybe one of your interior guards, right or left, is not the best player, but you can cover up for having a little bit of a gap there. Why isn't that the number one priority, and why isn't that being talked about? And how come they can't do it? I guess other teams have the same problems finding offensive linemen, and that seems to be the number one purpose that you would have to have as a personnel guy in the league, and yet we don't hear a lot of talk about that.
Well, the Chris Grier had the infamous quote, "You guys are more worried about the offensive line than we are."
Yes,
and
as you should have been.
To a certain extent, I can agree with him. Look, to me, you build however you can. Whatever. There's no formula. There's a best business practice. You remember the years when Dallas had that great offensive line. They never went anywhere. You had Tony Romo as the quarterback, and you had like 3 All-Pros up there on the offensive line, and you never went anywhere. Philly has a great offensive line, and Detroit has a great offensive line, but San Francisco does not. They're winning with freaking Mac Jones back there at quarterback, So there's no formula. Tampa doesn't have a great offensive line. There are teams that are doing it for different reasons. And so, look, I do think for the Dolphins, the situation they're in right now, it would make sense to start the rebuild in the trenches because of your last 2 drafts, right? Where you did take Patrick Paul and Jonas Savaianaya on the offensive line, and then on the other side of the line of scrimmage, you took Kenneth Grant and Chop Robinson. So you can't just throw away your last 2 first and second round picks. You need to make them kind of the basis of your rebuild. So in this case, in this situation, it makes 100% good sense to start it on the line of scrimmage, in the trenches on both sides of the ball. So we'll see what they do. My big thing, once again, is don't force the quarterback, because you can get a quarterback from so many places now. Either, you can get the first round pick. You can get the first round rehab project, right? In the form of Baker Mayfield or Daniel Jones or Sam Darnold. You can just pick somebody up in the form of Kirk Cousins, who, now granted, Kirk Cousins' magic ability is taking a 6-win team and turning them into a 10-win team. He can't take a 10-win team and take them to the Super Bowl. But that's kind of, there are different places to get your quarterback. And even if you have to get a bridge quarterback, if it's Zach Wilson or Quinn Ewers, whatever, you're not ready to win. My big hope is that they don't force the quarterback this year just because they have a top 5, top 7, whatever pick. Don't go out there and convince yourself that Arch Manning is a guy that you can build your franchise around. Which I don't even think Steve Sarkisian thinks that right now. but don't force the quarterback thing.
You want to run Tua right out of town, Chris. I mean, when did you become like this? You were always very very player oriented. You see this guy as being a complete detriment. If he comes back next year, I would imagine you'll be writing some kind of scathing indictment about the condition of the team.
No. You know what? I think that. Listen, I've said I think you can win with Tua. It's the roster construction. They're idiots. They're trying to win with Tua's left arm. And it's like Tua's not that good. Like what does it take for you to understand this? You can't. Tua's not going to take you to a title. Tua, and I was going to write this after the Super Bowl, and I got talked out of it, that, Jalen Hurts is not the number one reason the Eagles won the Super Bowl. The number one reason that they won was because they're a good team. I mean, you could argue that Josh Sweat should have been the Super Bowl MVP with his 2.5 sacks, right?
Yes.
I mean, they won because they had Saquon Barkley. And they was
dominant.
Yes, they had a good defense. They had a good offensive line. And so that's the thing with and Jared Goff he's not going to the Hall of Fame.
No.
But he has a good team around him. Brock Purdy and Mac Jones, they're not going to the Hall of Fame. They have good teams around them.
Yep.
And that's what the Dolphins have to do. And that's my big thing with them not recognizing that Tua has limitations, that you hired these quarterback whisperers, right? That Joe Philbin is going to turn Tannehill into Aaron Rodgers. No, wait. Adam Gase is going to turn Tannehill into Peyton Manning. No, wait. Mike McDaniel is going to turn Tua into a Hall of Famer. No, let the quarterback be the quarterback and build a strong team around him, like San Francisco, like Philly, like Detroit. That's what the Dolphins need to do. So my argument is not necessarily with Tua. My argument is with the people who build the team around Tua and think that Tua is going to become a Hall of Famer.
And again, when you force, it's what happened last time. Look, Mike McDaniel was fine, but he wasn't anyone's first choice. He'd never really been even a legit OC to then go. But the problem is that he had this love affair with Chris Grier. So any good coach was like, well, I'm not getting tied to that guy who sucks. Like, I'm not going to start out at a negative. Like, that's the same thing with Tua. Tua is leaves a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. So, like, now you're going to force a GM and a head coach to work. Like,
exactly.
I've been the biggest Tua guy, but at this point, like, you want to be able to get the best talent at front office and coach available. So everyone should be on the chopping block at this point, outside of maybe Achane and Waddle, because you can build an offense around them, and Chop and maybe Grant, because hopefully that they can turn into something on defense. Yep. Yeah, it's that's the thing with the Tua, is even if you like Tua, where does he fit? Like, it's just tough to see that.
Yeah, and you know what? When I look at the Mike McDaniel Tua duo, it's like, okay, so what I've learned is for these guys to win a playoff game, you have to amass more talent than you had in 2023, right? When the franchise had the best talent that it's had in 2 decades, and you still weren't good enough. So if you keep these two, you've got to get better than Teron and Vic Fangio and Jalen Ramsey and all of the Raheem Mostert. You've got to be better than that. But that's going to take you at least 2 years, probably 3, maybe 4 years. So that's my other thing, that if Mike McDaniel is not going to change his system, his way of thinking, he's got to go. He's got to go, because you can't waste this much talent. For Mike to be 30-30 with this much talent is just ridiculous. It is it's been a waste of resources and a failure of an era.
Could have kept Joe Philbin. He had 8-8 written on his forehead. I'm surprised Stephen Ross didn't see that, or maybe he was happy he had to go 8-8 when we were only playing 16 games. All right, final thing, Chris Perkins, always a pleasure having you on the program, but we're 9 weeks completed, so we're past the halfway point of the NFL season. What do we know? I mean, we've seen so many different things. Now we know Jerry Glanville probably had the greatest and most significant quote when it came to characterizing NFL play, and that's that the NFL stands for not for long. Right. And we've seen examples of this where teams look like they're starting to get it together and on a roll, and all of a sudden they are smacked with a startling loss. I wouldn't have given 2 cents for Minnesota's chances with J.J. McCarthy after that pathetic performance he had in his second week before he got injured, of coming back and beating the Detroit Lions, who I thought were finally getting it together. So where are we at? Who's good? I mean, we can tell who's not good, and unfortunately, our local team is in that conversation. But what do you see so far, Chris Perkins? Is there anything definitive we can take away from the essentially first half of the season?
Well, let me say this. I think that Kansas City and Buffalo are going to be there in the end.
Okay.
As far as the other teams, honestly, I don't know what to think about Denver and Indianapolis and Tampa and Seattle and a lot of these other teams that we see at the New England. A lot of these teams are you kind of thought they might be okay, but you weren't really sure. But now you look up and these teams are 6-2 and 7-2, and it's like, man, you got to take notice. You got to take them seriously. But they haven't been in the playoffs, and so we haven't seen how they are in postseason. That's why I'm still going to kind of stick with Kansas City and Buffalo. I've seen what they can do in the playoffs. everybody else, it's an exciting season. It's going to be a great finish. And this is about the time of the year that I always say, and this is the most unpopular thing you can say about the NFL. It's kind of like saying NBA, all you had to watch was the last 2 minutes of the game. I think the NFL is really like a 6 or 8 game season. And if at this point you're at 6-2, 5-4, whatever, you're still in it. At 2-7, 2-6, you're out of it. But if you're around 500-ish, November, December, January, you've got a chance. This is really when the season starts to me. This is just now where you're figuring out, you come in, like Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
So you come into the season thinking this is how we're going to win games. Now you're halfway through and you see, okay, well, Daniel Jones can win us games. So let's do more here. And so this is, and there's so many new teams. So I want to see what a lot of these new teams can do. But I'm believing in Kansas City and Buffalo, and then the rest of them, let's wait and see. But it's going to be exciting playoffs. It's going to be really good.
Is Bad Bunny still scheduled to do the halftime show?
Yes,
There's controversy. I haven't heard a word about it since, I guess, the last couple of weeks. That'll be interesting, though. I would imagine you're going to be out there covering the Super Bowl, Chris Perkins. And
No. I'll be here. I'll be at home drinking beer like the rest of America.
Oh, okay. Because that was among our favorite press conferences. We always attended the Roger Goodell State of the Union press conference.
Yep.
And then we always wanted to hear from the halftime entertainer. Lubie and I used to make sure that we got that in as part of our agenda. And so that'll be an interesting one this year. I would imagine that the Bad Bunny press conference will be a lot of fun to attend. I know Lady Gaga kind of knocked it out of the park when Beyonce was doing it. It was just a stroke job from what's the guy's name? Kevin. From Entertainment Tonight? It used to be on ESPN. Anyway.
Oh yeah. I can't remember his last name. I can see his face though.
I can see his face.
Look, you guys know way more about the halftime show. I never watched the halftime show.
No,
Kendrick Lamar was last year, right? I watched part of that.
Lubie loved that. Everybody hated it, but
Kevin Frazier,
yeah,
that's it. Yeah, I haven't. I don't know when was the last halftime show I watched. I would have. It might have been It was here where Prince played the guitar in the rain, right?
That was Hard Rock. Generally regarded as maybe the best one ever.
Yeah, that and the wardrobe malfunction. In my lifetime, I've probably watched like 3 or 4 halftime shows.
Oh, really? Okay.
I watch the commercials, but I'm not a halftime show guy.
A lot of people, when you have the party at the house, that's all they want to see. So that controversy is kind of quieted down to the point where the guy is going to perform, and maybe it'll rear its ugly head again right before the thing.
Obviously,
as the MAGA people realize that they're losing their ass and don't have any way to make it up.
Trump will threaten to replace them. Right.
There you go.
With himself, probably.
That's right.
All right, Chris, always a pleasure, my friend.
Thanks
so much. Appreciate it. Now, the trade deadline is today, isn't it?
Today at 4 p.m. Eastern.
Okay. And I mean, it's kind of a stupid question to ask because everybody always uses, hey, you're expecting a lot of activity, but are you expecting a lot of activity? What do you think?
I'm looking at Bradley Chubb and Minkah Fitzpatrick. Those are the two I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Getting traded, getting shipped out of here. Those are the two I'm looking at.
Okay. And now will you be in the parking lot there, the players' parking lot, as these guys take their stuff and get out of there, or are they not even?
No. Today is the off day.
They're off. Okay.
Yeah, Tuesday is the NFL off day, so we're working from home today. Yeah. So it won't be like in Davie where you stood across the street and waited for people to drive up. Right. So,
and the final cut down. I remember you used to have to kind of stake out the parking lot. Man, look who's coming out! Oh my God!
Yeah, or when there was the big trade. Hey, here's Mike Wallace is driving in, or something like that.
Guys walking out, being escorted out by Stu Weinstein, and you would have to go up and stick a mic in his face as he's just gotten fired from his job. That was always ugly. I never really cared for that particular aspect of covering the Dolphins. All right, always a pleasure, Chris. Thanks so much for being with us, and we hope to talk to you again soon.
Yep, we'll do it. All right, see y'all.
Perkins, ladies and gentlemen.
Works great.
All right, kind of interesting all the way around there, Libby. Well, what do we know about NFL football at this stage? Are you a believer in the Patriots? Let's go down a little bit of a list here before we get out of here. I know we got to run, but what do you think? You believe in the Patriots? You think what they're doing is representative of a team that actually has a chance to do something? Patriots,
I mean,
Colts, any of these teams interest you in any way, or you figure
I believe in the Colts a little more because they have a good defense and they have a good running game. The Patriots, feels like it's smoke and mirrors for the most part. Look, they did beat the Bills, and the Bills are a good team, but I think they got the Bills at a weird time. The Saints also pushed the Bills at that exact time. I think there's a lot of season left, and I'm curious to see how they handle it. Look, they've been the team that no one really was paying attention to. Now there are expectations. We'll see how they handle the second half of the season with expectations. And the Colts are very similar. Their division doesn't have a Bills, so I think the Colts may be a little bit of a softer landing. With the Jags, have played pretty well, so maybe the Jags will push the Colts a little bit. And Broncos are the other one. I don't know what to do with the Broncos because whenever I see their scores, it feels like they're struggling with an average team. But then I looked at the record; they're like third in the AFC. So it's like, okay. Yeah. So I don't know. I think the Chiefs are coming on in a way that people were writing them off, and I always think that's weird. And I think the Bills are coming on. And people forget, but we just saw them put a nice performance together against the Dolphins. The Baltimore Ravens with a healthy and very motivated Lamar Jackson and Harbaugh, because people have said Harbaugh's going to be fired if they don't do something this year. I think you can't forget the Ravens. And in the NFC, I really don't know. Like, people keep talking about the Eagles. I think the Packers, Seahawks, and Bucks may push the Eagles and the Rams. People forget the Rams. The Rams have probably the best coach of all those teams and have a good quarterback who's healthy, have some of the nice defense. I think the Rams, and we've lost you. There he is. I think the Rams, who, again, people have forgotten, I think the Rams could be very interesting. So in the AFC, I think it's going to be the teams we already know. The NFC, I don't know about the Eagles. The Eagles have had a lot of issues. Their offense had a lot of problems this year. And I think these other teams are ready to challenge them in a way that they weren't in the last couple of years.
Wide open, in other words. All right. Very good, Lubie. Very exciting. Great that Chris Perkins was able to join us here on the program.
Yes, sir.
Lubie, young Luka Lubitz, very well behaved during the show once again. So we appreciate that. No, fantastic. I love that he's already got a sportscasting gig. Start him young. You never know. I mean, you don't want to over guide your children into something that
No.
Let them make their own choices. All right, we're going to get out of here. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll see you later on. Join you again tomorrow. We'll have Old School with Tony Segreto and maybe Ed Garcia talking some college football.
Yep.
And should have the Trivia Challenge again coming up on Thursday this week and Friday the Professor. So lots to look forward to. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, Chris Perkins, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks so much for joining us. We will see you next time as we leave you now that.
The time.
It's 9:09.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.